Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Guild Wars 2 video. I am here once again to bring you a rework of sorts. Now, I'm not going to be reworking an entire specialization. I am instead going to be focusing in on a weapon. This weapon, as you might have guessed and clicked, is the Hammer for Revenant. The Hammer Revenant is quite useful in World vs. World and so on and so forth, but in the department of PvE and PvP, I don't know if it really is up to snuff. And I mean, it could even use improvements in World vs. World. So I just wanted to try my hand in creating concepts of how I would like to see and envision the Revenant Hammer. So without further ado, let's get started. So the Hammer Revenant. Hammer was one of the very first weapons to be revealed to the Revenant back in 2015, 2016. 2015, yes, that was the year. And ever since then it had a really interesting design. It was another melee weapon turned ranged weapon, the first being the greatsword for the Mesmer. So with the Revenant and it being on a heavy armored character, the Hammer definitely stood out to me. Its abilities were interesting and cool at the time, but it's now 2020. The flare has worn off, but not only the flare, as that's kind of subjective, but in my opinion, the effectiveness has kind of dwindled and gone a little sour. So I wanted to update it for 2020 and also just, explore extra discussion about Revenant design. After I touch on the Hammer, I'm actually going to be introducing a couple extra skills or thoughts about the Legendary Dwarf stance, because the Legendary Dwarf stance is often conjoined and paralleled with the Hammer weapon set. So I'll be touching on that at the end. But first and foremost, let's go over the skills that I've created and thought about for the Hammer. So first and foremost, we have the auto attack. Hammer Bolt. This is no different than what is already in the game. However, I made it an auto attack chain. So we have Hammer Bolt. Hurl your weapon at your enemies, striking foes in its path. No longer attacks 5 targets, but instead 3. The next one, Echoing Bolt, does the same thing, a little bit more damage, still 3 targets. And the final one, Whirling Mists. Create a fast-moving missile to strike foes. This will do more damage, but only, instead of 3, will now actually go up to 5, but does not have a combo field. Projectile combo. Additionally, the auto attack is 3/4 second, 1.5 second, and then finally 1 second. So that was the auto. I think adding an auto attack chain just might make it feel a little bit more interesting. Add some extra animations, slightly more power scaling if you finish your auto. And then yeah, so second ability. So I have 2 renditions of the second ability, what it could be. First and foremost is just a simple rework or touch up to Coalescence of Ruin. 4 energy, 4 second cooldown. Slam the ground with your hammer, creating a cascading eruption of energy, dealing more damage against targets further away, similar to other range scaling damage abilities. Additionally, upon reaching maximum range, mists will strike again, doing a final damaging blow. So this puts a bit more power into the second ability and really forces you to be using this at range. And this is, of course, with the PvE mindset. With World vs. World, you need to, of course, scale the damage and such, because I know Hammer Revenant is already very prominent in that game mode. So yeah, a little touch up, extra scaling damage, and then a final impact at the final cascade. My second option for the second ability is a completely new skill, which I've named Wrought Destruction. 4 energy on a 5 second cooldown. I'm just, shooting my shot, thinking. This skill is form a rift in front of you, striking it with your hammer multiple times. Like you're kind of, using the hammer as like a blacksmithing thing. That's the theme I was going for. It sends out waves of mist energy forward. Each wave will randomly grant you boons. So 4 shockwaves at a range of 1200 in a cone, but instead of being a little, more power focused as my other version, this enhances you, granting you a random chance at boons. So you have a chance of 3 might with 1 wave. If you get all of them, you can get 12 might, a chance of retaliation, and a chance of oh wait, that's Aegis. Oh no, I meant protection. I got the wrong boon icon. That'd be very powerful, but quite interesting. No, protection. Yeah, the text is right. That's a 5-head Pepega moment. Okay, moving on. So those are my 2 ideas for skill 2. Skill 3 I actually really enjoy. I think it's probably the most reliable and fun and interesting skills on the hammer. Next I want to talk about the 4th ability, Field of the Mists. Field of the Mists is a dumbed-down version of Dome of the Mists, but I still very much enjoy it. I don't think they should just swap it with Dome of the Mists. Please don't. I think Field of the Mists adds nice flavor. However, I would like to see a flip over to this ability, which I've named Field Charge. 6 energy, 12-second cooldown. It matches, the cooldown matches with the ability. You will send out the field to strike foes, dealing an effect based on the channeled legend. So this will be dependent on the legend you're channeling. So just moderate damage of 500. But if you're in Legendary Dwarf, jealous, it'll apply weakness. If you're on Legendary Demon, it'll apply 1 stack of poison. Legendary Assassin, 4 stacks of vulnerability. Legendary Dragon, 2 seconds of cripple. Legendary Renegade, 2 stacks of torment. And if you are on Legendary Centaur, it will grant a boon, which is why I've kind of placed it outside of the conditions. So if you're on, say, Ventari, it would be a bit more supportive as the field kind of like pushes forward. I had another idea a while ago where it would do the same thing when the field would just charge forward, but I had it knock back. But I don't know if I think the knockback is really the way to go. I'm very hesitant to put CC and see a lot of crowd control put in the game. That was my thought for the 4th skill. And then finally we have Drop the Hammer, the 5th skill. Drop the Hammer is a lot of fun, has a great visual, but it does take quite a while to cast. And I don't know if it's, really brings a great effect, especially in PvP, because it doesn't really do any damage anymore. But I've changed it a little bit. Summon a massive hammer from the mists to strike the ground. You will deal more damage against low health enemies. This turns Drop the Hammer into a bit more of an execution ability. If anything, I could see this having a bit more energy or slightly increased cast time. But moderate damage. At 20%, if you strike a foe, it will deal exponentially more damage, 1600. The knockdown still applies, and in competitive game modes, I can see the damage being pretty minimal, being the same, like 50 damage or whatever they put on to the crowd control skills, but damage at 20%, I could see that being somewhere around like 1,000 or something, to bring it in line with the competitive modes, but still have the 20% effect be very prominent. And rewarding to actually land on low health targets. I could still see this being very tricky to actually, pull off. Everything else is the same. Next, I'm going to be touching on Jalis, and before I actually talk about, extra abilities I would like to see added to him, because I think all legends could have extra abilities for customization, I want to touch on something really interesting. I actually tested this yesterday, and it rang true. You can probably test it yourself, but I would like to see a fix to Ancient Echo when used while you have Rite of the Great Dwarf. But currently, if you use Rite of the Great Dwarf and the effect hasn't gone away, and you want to use Ancient Echo to gain an extra bump of the Rite of the Great Dwarf effect and energy, it won't increase the duration. So I think I was at 3 seconds left of Rite of the Great Dwarf. If I were to use the Ancient Echo ability, you would think that it would bump up the duration to about 6 seconds. Motorcycle in the background, hold for talent. But you would think that the duration would be added, but it actually isn't. So you'll still be using the ability, you get the energy effect, but you don't get the duration increase or the effect out of Right of the Great Dwarf on the Ancient Echo. So I think that interaction could be looked at. I think it deserves a little bit of looking into. Maybe just to iron it out. I don't know if it's a bug or if it's intended, but something that I saw nonetheless. Now, for some of my fan ideas for extra skills for Legendary Dwarf Stance. First and foremost, we have Hardened Honor. 20 energy, 15-second cooldown. Infuse your skin with defensive barrier over a duration and gain retaliation. Grant yourself increased vitality for a duration of this ability. The duration of this ability. So you'll have 3 pulses of barrier, a little bit extra self-survival, and retaliation. This ability is going into the tanking theme of Chalice and the Legendary Dwarf Stance. We have pretty tanky things going on with like Inspiring Reinforcements and eventual hammers, you know, extra stab and extra healing. But it'd be interesting if we could instead swap one of them out for a barrier and retal on demand ability with extra vitality. The second ability that I thought of, if not Hardened Honor, would be Crystalline Missiles. We don't really have a great damaging ability on Chalice, and I know he's not really meant to be, but I do think he could have one damaging ability to kind of tie into the other legends and builds. So Crystalline Missiles. Send out Crystalline Missiles to strike foes from afar. These would just be 3 like very large stalagmite-esque projectiles, and then successful missile strikes grant you might. It's pretty simple, you know, just a long range damaging ability. Additionally, the range would play into the hammer because you often use hammer with Legendary Dwarf Stance. But a lot of the Legendary Dwarf Stance abilities needed to be pretty close to your targets. Inspiring Reinforcements and Forced Engagement not so much, but the hammer and maybe Ride the Great Dwarf, you have to be around people, like you want to be typically in melee range, but something a bit more catered to the long range play style. So everyone, those are my ideas for Revenant Hammer update. I really love Hammer. I would love if they got some redesign, some extra effectiveness. I would love to hear what you guys have to say, especially people who use a lot of Hammer on Revenant. I just think it needs some love, but even if you don't play Revenant, I would love to hear from you. Comment about what I've presented or not presented. Like the video, comment down below. Subscribe. Got links down below. You guys know what to do. You've been on the internet long enough. And I will see you guys in the next video. Take care, everyone. Good night. It's currently night for me, so see you later. Bye!